Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to be going over my top 5 tips for a new extremely strong but a little bit off meta support pick, and that is AP Maokai and his insane zone control. Now, my goal behind this video is to make you a better League of Legends player as well as to give you a better understanding of the champion as a whole. I put timestamps at every single point of the video. They're going to be up top, as well as the bar is going to be segmented into the different tips. If you want to contact me with any questions, you can hit me up in the pinned comments. I'm going to put a link to my Discord and Twitch stream, as well as I'm a bit limited with this format, only doing 5 tips. So if you want to give some of your own tips down below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And with all that out of the way, let's jump into tip number 1. Alright, and getting into tip number 1, we're going to go over a bit of the runes and items you can look to choose when you're playing Maokai. The great thing about it is he is very flexible in what he can pick up depending on the different lane and the different matchup. If you are in a tough matchup, maybe your team doesn't really have too much of the engage, going an Aftershock setup with Font of Life that's going to be proccing off of your E-slows, Bone Plating for a bit more tankiness, Unflinching, and a Hex Tech Flash Straption so you can Hex Flash out of the bush and then get even closer in range for your Twisted Advance, and then a little bit of Cosmic Insight can be very, very helpful. As far as the other build setup you can go the Comet setup where you can do a little bit more damage. It's going to give you a little bit more poke. It's going to allow you to bully lanes a lot more heavily, but you are going to be a lot squishier, so you have to be careful and have a good understanding of the different lane states and how you should pick your items and your runes based on what the enemy is running. The cat's go crazy. As far as the items, the overall core items, in my opinion, are going to be the Imperial Mandate that is going to give you a really nice good amount of damage coming out of your E, as well as the Demonic Embrace that allows you to be a pseudo frontline champion for a limited amount of time. Also, you have extremely high base damages, and whenever you have very, very high base damages with not the best AP scaling, Sorcerer Shoes are a really great choice. These are just some examples of different items you can go in different situations. If you need healing reduction, if they have a lot of burst and you need to stop getting one shot in team fights, and then if you're just looking to get a bunch of ability haste to put down as many of these saplings as possible. Now again, your runes are very flexible. That is why Maokai is extremely strong right now. If you just feel like you're unable to hit too many saplings, you're struggling to get too much damage down, you can just go an extremely tanky support build and you are still going to be useful. No matter what, AP or tank, Maokai is going to be useful. You just need to cater it for the different game states that is going on in your game. Say your team is doing really well. All your damage sources are doing extremely well. You do not have to go a very damage heavy game. You can go in more of a tanky setup. If you're the only one getting kills, if you're the only one that's good on your team and you're really just providing most of the threat on your team, you are going to have to go a little bit more damage heavy. So you really want to go down the path that best suits your current game state, and you will get better at this the more games you play of Maokai support. And that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, and getting into tip number 2, we're going to talk about the CC chain and why it is so important to get the timings very, very just down to an exact science, because you are going to be able to deny a flash away as long as you are overlapping the roots just at the perfect amount of time. I'm just going to show you what it is going to look like. So if you're lucky, you can land an R on the target. You want to wait until that white line is all done, hit them with the root, and then as soon as the root is done, you want to hit them with that knock up. So as you can see, we're going to just show it one more time, and then you just hit them with the knock up right after that root is gone. So you have a very long CC duration on the enemy target that is really going to enable your team to burst out any kind of squishy because of its exceedingly long duration. And if you did not know, every single part of your kit has a CC component to it. Your saplings are going to slow the enemy target, your W is going to root, your Q is going to use a knockback, and your R is going to root the enemy target. So you are just a CC machine. Every single thing is going to be proccing this Font of Life, and it is just going to be a very, very good way to control the team fights. And the more experience you get on this champion, the better you're going to be able to control as well as lock down a target for the maximum amount of time. And that will wrap up tip number 2. All right, and getting into tip number 3, we are going to go over one of Maokai's greatest strengths, and that is his overall zone control that he provides around objectives. So you really want to be watching the timers at all points so you can go and put down a couple of saplings before the enemy looks to go and contest those objectives, similar to what Teemo would do with shrooms. Now, a very cheeky way to get free saplings on level 1 targets, if you are doing this in the support lane, is just by throwing an E right there, or an E right here as they run to lane. It is going to be like a free 70 damage or 100 damage on an enemy target at level 1, depending on what kind of runes you are running. So the areas obviously that you want to be looking to use a sapling on are just going to be areas like this that are the common approaching routes that people are going to take that come over to the objective, and your ability to chunk someone out, say do 200 to 300 damage to like maybe a squishy or two, you are just going to have a huge presence in that map, and you're going to be a really big deterrent and just provide your team with a lot of just very unearned advantage with these saplings getting thrown out. Now, the only counter to this are champions like Shaco, like Zyra, like Heimerdinger that can put down units to eat the sapling charges, because they can't be targeted, they can't be hit, but they will aggro on any kind of enemy, whether it be minion or enemy champion. So always just keep this in mind, that you want to be going out, you want to be throwing out your saplings in a preventative manner, just so you can provide your team with a huge HP advantage when you are about to go into getting objectives. And that will wrap up tip number 3. All right, and getting into tip number 4, we are going to be going over team fighting and how you can look to effectively use Maokai. Now, one of the reasons why Maokai is extremely strong in the current meta and why a lot of pros are starting to pick it up is because there are a lot of hyper carry ADCs and there are a lot of divers in the meta. And when you have a lot of hyper carry ADCs and a lot of divers, a champion that can function as a bodyguard is absolutely just invaluable to your team fight. So say the enemy team has a Fed Kha'Zix, which tends to happen quite a bit, or like a Fed Zed or a Talon, your ability to just point and click a root on the enemy target, knock them back, and get a big large AoE going down on the enemy champions is just going to be too much for that champion to be able to get onto your high value target. So when you are team fighting on Maokai and you are not too tanky, you are not playing it like a traditional Maokai. You aren't looking to just engage on the enemy front line. You are looking to prevent divers from getting onto your high value target. So always look to play as a bit of a bodyguard when you are playing AP Maokai, as well as throwing down saplings into bushes to stop escape routes can just be absolutely massive. So this is just kind of a basic standard play that you can look to do when you are playing Maokai. Other ways of playing Maokai when you're a bit fed, looking for flanks can be extremely effective because of how strong your R is, and your pick potential can just be absolutely huge when playing Maokai. So just look to adjust your play for the current game state. Again, when you're really far ahead, you can look for flanks, but otherwise you should just be playing bodyguard for your allied champions that have the most amount of backline damage, and traditionally that is usually either your mid lane mage or your ADC that is going to be coming out. And that will wrap up tip number 4 for Maokai. All right, and getting into the final tip for Maokai, we're going to go over a couple small things with his W. Now, first, you can be using it both an offensive and a defensive style. Obviously, just Wing in on an enemy target and then queuing them backwards toward your team is a great way to offensively use your W, but you can also use it in situations to deny a lot of damage from the enemy targets. Say a enemy is throwing a Zed ultimate on you, a Syndra ultimate or Fizz ultimate, or the big pick spell is coming out like a Morgana Q or a Blitzcrank Q. Using your untargetable frames with your W can be a very great way to dodge out on a huge amount of damage coming out of the team, and you can look to change a team fight or a skirmish very, very easily because you are denying a lot of damage coming out of your target. And usually those kind of abilities are very, very like, you know, they're coming. They're very like visually apparent, like a big fizz fish coming out at you. The next thing you can look to do when you're playing Maokai is if you need a decent escape, you can just go towards the jungle, put a ward down, and W on the enemy targets. There's a couple different walls where you can do this over, and it's going to be a lot harder for the enemy to follow. Just keep this kind of in the back of your mind when you are looking to get out of those sticky situations and get over those walls. This is a little bit of an underrated way to just kind of get out of really rough spots, or you can look to W in on these kind of areas, and you can look to pick the target that maybe is right over here. So always look to kind of catch people off guard with your ability to go over walls, because a lot of people, you don't really see too many Maokais, and this is going to be a great way to catch them off guard. Now, if you have any questions about any of my tips, I heavily encourage you guys to hit me up in the comments down below, or you can join my Discord in the pinned comments. As always, guys, take it easy.